So lumber prices are finally starting to soften, but not compared to 2 years ago. Look, Canadian lumber disputes and US tariffs are still set in place. And so I wanted to do some research to understand exactly what was happening between the United States and Canada. You know, you hear about the lumber disputes and you talk about the US tariffs and why our administration and government body will not allow Canada to bring lumber into the United States. And so one of the big questions that people ask me is they go, what is it with the tariffs that does not allow Canada to bring in lumber? Well, back in 2015, there was a dispute because of a quota agreement that expired, and the US said that Canada wasn't doing things the way they want things to be done. So hence, until Canada produces lumber and does things the way the United States wants them to do it, they will not lift the tariffs. So as a country, if you were in the position where you said, I am providing you with lumber that you need, we want to continue harvesting lumber the way we harvest lumber and produce it, would you make the change? That's the big question. And so some of you guys go through this in your own lives. You sit back and go, well, this is the way I do it. I'm going to do things the way I want to do them, and I don't want to make any changes. And there's two ways to look at this, right? So you sit back and you go, look, we've been producing lumber. The lumber is of quality that we're bringing into the United States. We're not changing it. This is how we do business. Take it or leave it. And so the United States has decided to leave it, and they're not taking it. And so you sit back and go, stupid United States or stupid Canada? Well, if you look at it from the other perspective, when you look at it based on customer service, most times a company will service their customers' needs, especially if they are your largest customer. And so the US being the largest buyer of lumber from Canada, you would think that Canada to some degree would negotiate and say, hey, I agree to making some of these modifications and changes. Now, I'm sure there's some internal politics that you and I don't know about that's holding up this US tariff and trade agreement. And so we would love to see it. I think everybody would love to see it. But as the Biden administration just mentioned less than 30 days ago, Biden himself said, I will fight inflation before I lift the tariff on Canada. And so, ladies and gentlemen, in less than 30 days ago, right from the horse's mouth, it doesn't look like the U.S. tariff on Canadian lumber is going to get lifted anytime soon. So what does that mean for you as builders, investors, developers, home buyers, and everybody out there that's related to real estate? Because lumber, as it ties to the housing market and building of them in new construction, it is the biggest driving force for lumber production across the United States. And so that being said, we sit back and go, okay, how does this affect our market? Well, as we look at the market on lumber right now, we're starting to see lumber start to go down. In fact, we've had about an 80% decrease in lumber from where we were this time last year. So we have seen a substantial decrease. But lumber is up just shy of 200% from 2.5 years ago. And so when we sit back and we look at the overall cost of lumber, we're still extremely high. And so what we're doing with the increasing of interest rates has slowly helped the lumber market. And it seems as though the inflationary values of stuff that's happening with commodities, and including lumber and other household goods, is slowly starting to plateau. This was the goal, is to be able to see this stuff plateau in the market and start subsiding inflation. And so what can we expect from lumber if the Biden administration doesn't release these tariffs on Canada long term? So I went in, I did a little research on what Home Depot and what Lowe's think and what they're considering as large corporations and some of the largest sellers of lumber nationwide. Between Home Depot alone, they're selling billions of dollars of lumber every single year. One of the number one sellers of lumber, Home Depot being substantially larger than Lowe's. And so they talk to a lot of the corporate office and the corporate administrators of Home Depot. And what their projection is, moving into the latter part of 2022, is they said, we foresee that lumber prices will stabilize by the end of the year. Because any retailer, if you think about it in regards to profitability and losses, their profitability is more projected based on stability of numbers. So this volatility that we're seeing, this up and down prices in the market with lumber is very hard for retailers, because what happens is their profits get compressed when lumber prices actually drop because of the inflated values of what they've already paid for to have that lumber dropped at their facilities. So there's a balance in the lumber prices going down and the time it takes for that lumber to be sold that's on their shelves. And so with the housing market slowly softening a little bit because of increased interest rates, there's an inventory amount that's sitting on the shelves that's slowly, there's an attrition rate that's slowly being sold off, and then the prices can stabilize. And so what Home Depot said is they said, look, we are looking for a more level playing field at the end of 2022. Then they went to Lowe's and they asked the executives at Lowe's, and Lowe's had very similar things to say in comparison to Home Depot. And they said, look, we're looking at the long-term projections of this. We know that there is still a huge housing need. And when we talk and interview our clients, and we interview some of our biggest clients and biggest buyers, they're telling us that there is no shortage of home improvement projects, no shortage of home renovation projects, no shortage of new construction projects, and sales today are just as strong as they've ever been, and even higher in some regards. And so when you sit back and you look at lumber prices and you look at what Home Depot, Lowe's, and some of the biggest sellers of lumber nationwide are doing, they're sitting back and they believe that at the tail end of 2022, we're going to see a more stable price point, a leveling of lumber prices across the board nationwide. And so whether we do it through the lifting of the U.S. tariffs on Canada, or whether we do it through increasing interest rates and stabilizing inflation, something is helping us. And right now, we're just thankful as real estate developers and builders that we can see some relief in the lumber market. Just a real quick update on lumber prices in our regards personally. We had a house that we had multiple homes that are going up, but we had priced one in particular house that had come back with an $80,000 lumber package price, excluding trusses. And now that exact same lumber package price today, compared to just 3-4 months ago, is only $50,000. So hence, lumber prices have went down over $30,000 on one single family home. That's approximately 2,500 square feet. So we're excited to see that. And so with housing prices compressing, even just with the compression of lumber prices in itself, we can absorb the price variance that homes have declined over the last couple months. But we have little tricks up our sleeve on how we negotiate, how we work on these resale values on homes. But for a whole entirely different video, different day, you'll have to click below. I'm going to put that video in right after on how we actually negotiate and work on inflated interest rates, and how you as an investor yourself can implement the exact same strategy and buy down your interest rates on your next project. Click below, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you guys for joining, and I'll see you next time.